This is lesson 7.4. We're going to look at some more properties on multiplying exponential numbers. But as a quick review, you know that if you raise a number to a zero power, like 2 to the 0, you get 1. If it's negative, you get negative 1. But if you put it in parentheses and raise it to the 0 power, it's 1. We also looked at negative exponents. If I have 2 to the negative first power, that means move it down to the bottom and make it 1 over 2 to the positive first power. Yesterday we looked at multiplying exponential numbers together. And you know that when you have the same base and you multiply them together, you add the exponents to get x to the 5th. Today we're going to look at what happens when you take an exponential number and you raise it to a power. So you have a handout in front of you. If you look at the very first row in the table, you'll notice that 5 to the second is being raised to the 3rd power. So all I did was write out 5 to the second 3 times. Each of the 5 to the seconds is 5 times 5. So all those 5s together makes 6 factors, which can be written as 5 to the 6th power. Take a few minutes, pause the video, and fill in the next 2 rows to try to answer the question at the bottom. Okay, if you take negative 3 to the second and raise it to the second, what you're doing is taking this part and multiplying it by itself twice. Each of those negative 3 to the second powers can be written as negative 3 times negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3, that makes 4 negative 3's, or negative 3 to the 4th power. The last row, b squared to the 4th power, means b squared multiplied by itself 4 times. Each of those is b times b, b times b, b times b, b times b, b times b. That makes a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 b's, or b to the 8th. So the shortcut that you should have come up with is that when you raise a power to a power, you just multiply the exponents. So a shorthand way to write that, or a formula in math, would be if I have an exponential number like x to the b, and I raise it to the to the a, you just multiply b times a. So let's look at a couple examples. N to the 4th raised to the 7th power. This exponent multiplied by this exponent, 4 times 7, is n to the 28th. In the second part, x to the negative 3rd raised to the 5th, that's negative 3 times 5, or x to the negative 15th. Now this isn't simplified completely, but the directions don't ask you to simplify it, they just ask you to write it with one base. As opposed to example 2, which does say simplify. So we're going to start by taking this exponential number and raising it to a power. Y to the 5th raised to the negative 2nd is y to the negative 10th. That's being multiplied by y to the 3rd. If you have like bases and you multiply them together, you add the exponents, you get y to the negative 7th. But that's not simplified completely, so you finish it off by writing it as 1 over y to the 7th. You move the negative exponent down to the bottom. Alright, take a second, try the next 3 problems, pause the video, and when you're finished, hit play and I'll show you how to do them. Okay, you start by taking care of this power raised to a power. X to the 6th raised to the negative 4th is x to the negative 24th. That's being multiplied by x squared. Now you have 2 like bases being multiplied, so you add the exponents. You get x to the negative 22nd, which, getting rid of the negative exponent, bringing it down to the bottom, makes it 1 over x to the 22nd. Part B, w to the 7th raised to the 3rd is w to the 21st. That's multiplied by w to the negative 2nd, like bases being multiplied, add the exponents, you get w to the 19th. The last one, r to the negative 5th raised to the negative 2nd is r to the positive 10th. That's being multiplied by r to the 3rd. So because you have like bases, you add the exponents, you get r to the 13th. Now if that was too fast and you want to watch it again, back it up, look at it again. The next rule, or the next part of this lesson, is looking at raising a power or raising a product to a power. Product, remember, is just multiplication. So 2 times x is a product. If I raise that to some power, what do I get? So all I've done in this table in the first row is taken 4m, multiplied by itself 3 times. And like we talked about yesterday, you can rearrange these numbers any way you want to. So I'm going to group all of the 4s and all of the m's. There's 3 4s and 3 m's, so that's 4 to the 3rd, m to the 3rd. And then I can simplify 4 to the 3rd to get 64. So you try the next row and the 3rd row, hit pause and resume when you're ready. Okay, AB raised to the 4th power just means AB times AB times AB times AB. But you can rearrange those letters any way you want to, so I'm going to rearrange them so all the A's are together and all the B's are together. That gives me A to the 4th and B to the 4th. The next example says 3xy, that's 3 times x times y raised to the 2nd. That's a product, so I'm going to write 3xy multiplied by 3xy. Again, I can rearrange it, so I can put the number 3 next to the number 3, and the letter x next to the letter x, and so on. So I get 3 to the 2nd, x to the 2nd, y to the 2nd. 3 to the 2nd power is 9, and that's my answer. So the shortcut that you might have seen is that it's kind of like the distributive property. So I'm just going to write like the distributive property. And here's what I mean. If I have some product, some parentheses with if I have 2 factors being multiplied together and I raise those to some power, it's like the distributive property where I give the exponent to each part inside so that I get x to the a times c and y to the b times c. It will make more sense if I do some examples, so let's do some. Example 3. First part of this is just raising n to the 5th to the 2nd power. That's n to the 10th power. That's this part. In the second part, I'm going to give the 3 to each of the factors. So I'll give it to the 4, give it to the m, give it to the m. That's 4 to the 3rd, m to the 3rd, and n to the negative 2nd raised to the 3rd is n to the negative 6th. So when you write an expression, you normally put the number first. So I'm going to put that here, 4 to the 3rd. N to the 10th and n to the negative 6th, those are like bases, so I can add the exponents to get n to the 4th and m to the 3rd. 4 to the 3rd power is 64. And generally when you write letters, you write them in alphabetic order, so I'm going to write m to the 3rd, n to the 4th. And that's it. So let's do A, and then I'll have you pause the video and do B and C by yourself. In this first set of parentheses, x to the negative 2 is raised to the 2nd, so that's x to the negative 4th. In the second set, the 4 is kind of distributed to each, so I get 3 to the 4th, x to the 4th, and y to the 5th to the 4th is y to the 20th. 3 to the 4th power is 81. x to the fourth, x to the negative fourth times x to the positive fourth is x to the 0 and y to the 20th. But because x to the 0 is just 1, my final answer is 81 y to the 20th. Alright, pause the video, try B and C. In B, I'm going to give the 3 to the 6 and the A and the B. I get 6 to the third, A to the third, B to the third. The second set of parentheses, I give the 2 to the 5, so I get 5 to the second. And A to the negative third squared is negative 6. This one has more numbers in it. 6 to the third is 216. A to the third and A to the negative 6th is A to the negative third. B to the third and 5 squared is 25. 216 times 25 is 5,400. The A can be brought down to the bottom to be A to the positive third with B to the third on top. The last one, C, I give the 4 to each. I get 3 to the fourth. C to the fifth to the fourth is C to the 20th. C squared to the third is C to the sixth. So 3 to the fourth is 81. C to the 20th times C to the sixth is C to the 26th. And that's it. All right, you have a few problems to do for today's lesson, and that's it. If you get stuck, come back to this video and watch it again, and good luck.